From successful workplace design to succession planning and making office parties memorable for the right reasons. It is time to call on the expertise of the Lifestyle Panel. Joining us for the nightly Vocal Point, HR expert and consultant Alison Meyer, and registered psychologist Dr. Gans Ference, and in Calgary tonight, Dr. Janet Miller. Welcome back to Alberta Primetime, everyone. Glad to see you on a chilly evening, by the way. All right. Is your workplace actually working? Light, color, space, air, noise, a handful of factors that may be hindering your productivity at work and ultimately costing Alberta businesses through an increase in the number of sick days taken and a decrease in the number of employees retained. Gans, we heard from design professional Ellen Walker just before the break as she toured the Stantec building in Red Deer for us. You partnered with Ellen in co-authoring an article that talks about the impact of an employee's environment on the company's bottom line. What might be surrounding Albertans 5 days a week, 8 or more hours a day, as we've heard on past panels, that they may not know is a serious concern?
Well, you know, there's so many factors. I think, you know, natural light is one of those big things that is missing in a lot of workplaces, but the quality of the air and also just ambient noise. Things like these factors actually all add up to create more stress for people. And the problem is it's so much part of the environment that we don't always pay attention to. We don't know it, but it has these subtle effects that add up over time and then go into all the stuff that you just described in terms of turnover or, you know, increased sick days or low productivity.
All of a sudden, I have this image in my mind of the average television newsroom, scanners going, and no wonder it's so stressful in TV news. But Alison, is there an ideal workplace setup, or is it variable? Does it depend on where you work and who you're working with?
Yeah, I think it depends on the type of work that you're doing, and is an open space going to be something that's going to be right for productivity and for actually getting work done, or do you need more confined space in individual offices where people can actually retreat and concentrate, depending on the type of deliverables they have in their world?
Janet, what about schools? Is the relationship between students and classrooms similar to what we're talking about in a work environment?
Well, there's certainly lots of overlaps for sure. Now, Gans's article was awesome and talked about making workspaces personal. You can't do that in a classroom. A student's not going to feel like they have a personal ownership over a classroom. However, as a group, a class does own a classroom. Modular equipment or tables that you can move around, having a space to make your own, having a place to actually meet your fellow students and to get to know your instructor makes a big difference, as well as color, natural light, air quality, other noise, much like in a work environment. So there are similarities and of course there are some differences.
Alison, where does responsibility lie in this regard in terms of setting up a work environment so that it is best suited to the employees? Does that fall on the shoulders of the employer, or do employees play a big role in that?
I think employees should play a big role. Ultimately, it's the employer's money that's being put forward into the budget to design the environment, and they would have final say on that. But to actually ask the employees what's going to work for them, to engage them in that process, and to get buy-in ultimately for the final result is really good practice.
Well, that's going to go a long way too, I would think, to retaining employees. Gans, what do you do if your employer is not taking action?
Well, you get a bunch of you guys together and go and talk to your employer. But short of that, you try to do what you can to personalize your space as much as possible. One of the big factors is organization. So if you've got a cubicle or an office or whatever it is, if you can make it as organized and as tidy as possible, that actually helps to reduce your stress. Chaos equals stress. And so the more chaotic your workspace is, the more stressful you have your experience. If you can also streamline your actually job tasks so that it flows, that also helps you reduce your stress too. And these are things that you can actually do for yourself, along with putting up pictures or different things like that will help you feel more positive at work.
And Janet, what about making that sales pitch to the employer? Why is it so vital that this actually happens in the environment? Let's talk about productivity.
Well, it's productivity and also general outlook and wellness. So if I'm feeling relaxed, I don't have to worry about being distracted by noise or clutter. If I'm able to do my activity or my task, or I'm feeling better, I'm feeling more pleasant if I'm in customer service, or I'm able to focus more, I'm going to be more creative. Of course, I'm going to be more productive. So if I'm able to control my environment, if it's a place and a space that is stress reducing, then I'm probably going to be a better employee, and I'm probably going to be there longer and enjoying my work more.
Gans, you mentioned earlier natural light. How important is that?
Very, very important.
Because many of us work in the Alberta PrimeTime crew
Yeah.
works in an environment where there are no windows.
Yeah, well, the
We
studios,
get along well, but,
right, yeah.
but how important is that?
Well, it's very, very important because we're solar powered, right, as humans, and so we need to be able to see the sun, see the light, especially those of us in the north here. We don't get much sunlight to begin with, so any time that you have an opportunity as an employee to get close to a window or get outside or do something outside in the bright light, that actually helps your brain produce serotonin, which is one of those brain chemicals that helps keep you happy and focused and productive and that sort of thing. So, there's some cheats you can do in terms of like full spectrum lights or what they call SAD lights that give you the blue spectrum in the visual spectrum, and that does help to trigger that response in the brain as well. But it's very, very important.
Awesome.